Let's go from that major game and a major win for Michigan to another major game, Pac-12, where Washington hosted Utah. And I got to tell you, I was in on this one. Number 5, Washington held off number 18, Utah, 35-28 in Seattle, and it felt back and forth, right? It is a defense at Washington that was giving up like 37.5. So you're thinking, okay, if Utah could put up 34 on USC, they ought to be able to score 30 on Washington, and that was about it, right? Problem with this is you not only got the Michael Penix experience, 300 yards passing, but you got the Rome Odunze experience. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is wide receiver 1, Rome Odunze is wide receiver 2. Like he's been legitimately awesome this season. And then you got the Dylan Johnson experience, because now a man who had not rushed for more than 100 yards in any game in his entire collegiate career that spans 4 years has done it against 3 teams in the Pac-12, and all 3 teams were ranked. He did it against Oregon in a win. He did it against USC in a win. And now he's done it against Utah in a win. It might just be that the Washington Huskies are developing a run game right before our very eyes, and that ought to be terrifying for anybody that has to play them the rest of the way. Notably, Oregon State, Washington State, and probably whoever they get in the Pac-12 title game. I was really impressed with how the defense for Washington bowed its back in the second half. We saw an unfortunate play where my man picked off a pass and did, how do you run all the way to the end zone and then drop the ball right before the end zone once again? We see this, it felt like every other week there for a while, and it kind of went away. And in this game, it goes from being basically 6 points to 2 because you pin him down at the 1-yard line, you get the safety, and all's well that ends well. But those are the kind of mistakes that were all over this game. Like, we saw penalties from Utah and Washington that we don't normally see. Most of them being procedural or just not paying attention to the details. Giving up holding penalties when you got them in first and second and long. Getting these false start penalties. Getting these late flags. It's just not what we've come to expect from Utah in particular, but also a Washington team that doesn't just want to win the Pac-12. And that was the thing that I was looking for from Washington. Is this a national championship caliber team? Not right now, it ain't. You're giving up too much on the back end. You're giving up over 250 yards passing to Bryson Barnes, who was the 3rd best quarterback to start the year and now the best option for Utah the rest of the way. You got a defensive back in Sione Vaki who was getting what he wanted against you. You got a former quarterback in Jaquindon Jackson who was able to run on you. And if Michael Penix Jr. does not have the day that he had today, are you capable of beating Oregon a second time, let alone winning the Pac-12 championship? But you know what? They are doing what we asked them to do. They are winning every game they play, and they're beating what we think are good football teams in a deep Pac-12 this year. So it might just be that the Pac-12 is good and that Washington is playing against the Pac-12 schedule that is good. We don't really know, right? Because we're not going to be able to find this out until I think the Pac-12 champion gets into the playoff. There's a lot more moving and shaking to be done there. One other thing to take a look at here is just how the committee is going to take a look at Washington beating this Utah team versus, say, another undefeated team that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Because right now it's not Washington just playing against Utah or playing against Oregon State or playing against Utah or, playing against Washington State or playing against Oregon perhaps in the Pac-12 championship. It's them playing against other Power 5 champions, notably one in particular. But you did what you needed to do against a really good Utah team that has shown they can beat quality opponents. Now you just got to keep doing it the rest of the way, because I think you're correct if you're a Washington fan. You went out, you're into the playoff. But are you into the playoff to win it, or are you just winning into the playoff? Because there is definitely a difference. And if you want to be the kind that can win it, you're going to have to fix that defense quick, fast, and in a hurry. And I don't know how you're going to be able to do that.
If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.